I want to welcome Agile XRM to the podcast. I've known the people at Agile XRM for the past 12 years. I've seen how their business process management tool can add massive value to complex organizational processes in sectors such as finance and government. If you have complex processes or a need for dialogues on the Power Platform or Dynamics 365, take a look at how this BPM tool can add value. You can find them at agilexrm.com or check out the show notes for more details. Welcome to the Power Platform Show. Thanks for joining me today. I hope today's guest inspires and educates you on the possibilities of the Microsoft Power Platform. Now, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from Perth in Western Australia, which is part of Australia, as you can imagine. He works at Rio Tinto as a Power Platform architect. He's passionate about using technology to drive business growth and look forward to bringing his skills and expertise to the team. Today, we're going to talk about governance and strategy in the Power Platform. And you might be thinking, well, how much will my guest know about this subject when he's only worked for such a short time for this company? Well, he has also worked for 10 years at Accenture. So he has been a long time working this technology. He's been an MVP for many of those years as well. So he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience. You can find links to his bio, social media, etc. in the show notes for this episode. Devendra, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Mark. That was a great introduction. Great to be here.
Good. It's good to have you here. You're one of these people that, has really jumped on my radar in recent months, and I am blown away by your wisdom, your depth of knowledge, particularly around architecture and the Power Platform, and experience at the end of the day, and an experience in the world we live in where everything is changing and so many people are joining the community all the time. I think, you bring a lot to the table with that experience, and I'm hoping today to capture some of what you've learned over the very many years of working in this space. But before we go there, I always love for my guests to kind of introduce the non-work part of themselves. So what I call food, family, and fun, because it's three things that are easy to remember. But tell us what they mean to you.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll start with family. Me, my wife, and two daughters currently living in Perth. We came here in 2018, beginning of 2018, as part of a program called Global Career Program from Accenture Avanade. I'm quite lucky to be here. And then when it comes to food, we eat a lot of vegetarian and a lot of Indian food. And again, kind of lucky my wife does most of that. and for all four of us, and we love it. And then fun, mostly spending time with kids. Sometimes we just go to the park, try to go most of the weekends. But I think individually, I kind of follow the sports. That was one of the things that kept me going. So I always wanted to be part of that, but I think I came into IT. But that's the fun aspect.
So when you say sports, is that cricket for you?
Yes, Mark. It was always from when I was a kid, especially in the summer. My dad always used to tell me, don't go and play in the hot sun, but we'll just wait for him to take a nap and we just go out and do that. I think it's being continuous with that, but yeah.
It's funny how cricket really came from England, and of course it really affected, I feel, India. There's a few other countries, West Indies, etc., which is a big deal, right? And then of course Australia and New Zealand it's a big part of my growing up culture. Was everything around cricket. And then, but I've noticed, I think, I don't know, maybe in the last 6 years, India seems to, they created their own league. It's become the kind of dominating force in the cricket world, is really, even kind of like pulling England into line, as in it seems that India is now like the leaders in this sport globally.
Yeah, I think the Indian Premier League helped in because I think a lot of sports needs infrastructure, which means that can only be done when they got money. I think with the leagues, I think that helped everyone. Now, because in the larger countries, like so many people, only 11 can play. But now with these leagues, I think it's going pretty good for a lot of families. Yeah, which is good.
So good. Okay, let's move on and talk about another exciting topic, which is around governance and strategies of the Power Platform. And one of the, I suppose, the hot topics I have been on at the moment. And, I've just freshly come back from Seattle, where I spent the week with a bunch of people in the product team at Microsoft. And I feel like the Power Platform has been sold as a low-code, no-code platform that citizen developers, that everybody, you can get your grandmother on and she can build an app. And the problem, although that sounds attractive and, we want to get to the place where anybody that would use Excel as a tool would use the Power Platform as a tool. And I think that's an admirable place to get to. But what concerns me is that, 20 years in the space, and before we had the Power Platform, we had Dynamics CRM back in the day, or MS CRM, what I started with. And we used to chop the top off that off, so to speak, and we used to build any type of application on that platform, right? We used to, what Microsoft coined for a while was XRM, any type of relationship management. We've got this very sophisticated metadata, meta-driven, model-driven database architecture, which allows us to build solutions that are extremely powerful and extremely scalable. That message hasn't been told, I feel, for maybe 6 years. And I feel we need to index back there on that message and really talk about building big enterprise applications on that core platform, right? And I feel that there's a couple of personas that we need to focus on. One is the role of the enterprise architect in the decision-making of big apps going on this platform. And the second is the role of the pro developer, being that I don't know of too many large-scale applications that are not heavily pro-code involvement in my career, right? Even though, yes, functional consultants and et cetera can build up data models and relationships and business process can be implemented with that technology. We always have needed to really, if you're going to do an enterprise solution, you need the pro developers. And I feel we've lost that story. We've lost our way of onboarding .NET type folks to the Power Platform and get them excited so that they're choosing that as one of their tool sets. And it can only ever be one of the tool sets. And I know I'm ranting to kind of set the scene, but then we're going to go to you, because today most solutions would never be built in a silo. In other words, there would be the need for Azure, using services out of Azure, service buses, pipelines, all manner of things. And then M365 is always going to be front and center because Teams is such an important element of whatever we do. And then Outlook, of course, is still a key communication platform in most organizations. And so it's really bringing together all this technology. And then if you've got data sitting in SAP, we're going to want to light that up and make it available, or maybe an Oracle financial system or something like that. And it's about bringing these ecosystems together to create amazing solutions that enable an organization. And my experience in the town you're in Perth, WA, years ago, I built a solution with our team at the time in the company I was working for that manages an entire roading infrastructure of the of WA, West Australia, right? And a lot of people don't realize that's 11 times the size of the United Kingdom. It's large. Every bridge, road, piece of power pole, whatever. And I would consider that enterprise app, and it's really built on what we would modernly call the Power Platform. So with that kind of foundation in place, I'm keen to understand your thoughts around this and your perceptions. Let's start with, governance and strategy. How do you kind of take an organization and putting the let's build every app on this platform, that kind of low-code story aside, how do you have those decisions that give enterprise architects the confidence that this platform is secure and is scalable and is going to protect them from a risk profile perspective?
Yeah, I think you covered, I think, quite a lengthy question. To be honest, I think you touched upon quite a few systems within the platform as an ecosystem. You touched upon Azure, XRM, and then Dynamics 365, and then the Power Platform. I think what I see, one of the challenges, I think the mindset, because example, me coming from .NET background to SharePoint. So what happens is when you have strong programming skills, when you look at a platform, in my case, it was all SharePoint, then moved to a little bit of Dynamics. Most of the times I try to look at, okay, for every problem, I need to write a code, right? I think one of the main thing with the traditional software development is the risk is so huge when you try to think of writing code for every component, because each and every platform is so big. So you got to look at the out-of-box solutions. Now, once people understand the platform a bit more, then it becomes much more easier when I should code, when I shouldn't code. Because the reason is the Power Platform will not work in isolation. It either need to work with the other platforms in the ecosystem. That could be SharePoint, Dynamics. People who are coming in outside, one of their main challenges, they don't understand the systems that they are working with and jump onto solutions. And now that leads to a lot of pro development projects not get the results they want, especially from the people side. Let's say if client is investing so much, they want to see better results. And again, let's say Power Platform is new at the time in 2018. That's where I started. It might be even before. If people can show the customers like, okay, these are the things that it could integrate and how it is successful, then the enterprise architects will get the confidence, right? But then out of which maybe 10, 15 solutions, even one solution is not going as per expectations, can always throw some seeds in the mind like, okay, this may not be the platform for the enterprise level, but depends on. And again, what I believe is everyone's experience is very limited because you got vast variety of challenges that people are solving nowadays with Power Platform. And Power Platform does serve both the people in the business and also people who got skills at the pro dev level. I think it's just differentiating when to do what is going to be the key. That's where in my current role, that's where we are seeing like if there is a requirement, we need to help them people to choose what solution they need to start with. Sometimes even like having a checklist on what data sources this particular application need to use. Does it need to connect to just SharePoint or Dynamics, or even does it need M365? I think having that guidance to people is going to help them eliminate the challenges a bit later. But again, it's a fascinating discussion, Mark, because there is a lot of marketing that happened. Like you said, everyone can build solutions, which is great, but can they build applications that integrate with SAP, integrate with a lot of M365 services and Azure services? I don't think so. I can give you a few examples where if I am in a business and I am using paper-based applications, I can only move to the Excel or maybe a little bit SharePoint list because that's similar to Excel. But I don't have that understanding about moving to different tech. It's going to take some time, and getting the enterprise architects buy-in is going to be much more challenging because you need to show them the results, examples. The more we show them the results, and also, I know the value generation is going to be the key as well. And on this one, the extension would be everyone can build solutions, but most of the times, let's say in the organization, you got 1,000 people, right? 1,000 people out of which 20%, 30% of them might be building solutions. And out of 20%, which is 200 people, and 1% of them is going to be really making quality apps that could generate a lot of value. I think everyone in the company needs to help those 1 to 5% of people.
How do you one of the things you and I have discussed over the past weeks is I see one of the roadblockers, if you like, to going into really enterprise scale is the fear of premium license, right? The concern that, with M365 and whether it's E3 or E5, you get a seeded license. And that's how a lot of people have come to the Power Platform. But then there's this fear that, to go premium, that's going to cost us a lot of money. But there's no thought of, technical debt. There's no thought of what the security profile is between, a SharePoint list or as opposed to Dataverse. There's no thought around what you get with managed environments, for example, around the rigor in software development that it provides with things like ALM. That's not factored in. And so they just see this number as opposed to free and like, why? How do you have those discussions with your stakeholders to take them on that journey? And I know I shared with you the total economic impact report that came out from Forrester. And there was some interesting, I find that when people really read that, they understand, oh my gosh, I've been looking at this all the wrong way and there's another way. How do you have those discussions internally around going to a premium model and therefore all the benefits of Dataverse that comes with it, premium connectors, of course, and managed environments in that picture? If you're looking for a structured way to enhance your career in Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform, this is for you. Enrollment for the 90-day mentoring challenge April to June cohort are now open. I discovered MS-CRM in 2003 and it changed the course of my life. My career in Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform has taken me all over the world, and the opportunities for people to build a career in the space today are better than ever. The 90-day mentoring challenge will help you chart a path to capitalize on these opportunities and build the skills for greatness. Find out more at ako.nz365guy.com. For the first time, I'm limiting space on this cohort for a more intimate experience. So if you want to be part of it, don't wait. Enrollment will close on the 25th of March. Podcast listeners can use the code PODCAST for a 10% discount at checkout.
Yeah, great question, Mark. I think there was always a before and after story. Thank you for sharing me that economic impact report, because when I was working with a lot of other customers, it's always a discussion, right? Because I have worked where every request that needs Dataverse has been scrutinized because they don't have the licenses, right? But now after reading this report and looking at some of the benefits that people can get, I think people have to look at like a time horizon. It's not going to be 6 months or 1 year benefit. It should be like 3 years, 5 years. What is the investment that we could make and get the results? And it's only going to compound over a period of time. That was my light bulb moment when I read that economic impact report, because license is going to cost at the beginning, but then it's going to provide a lot more opportunities provided you use the tech properly. That's where I think proper guidelines on when to build solutions. Let's say from SharePoint background, I have seen good and not so good. You can build all sort of solutions, but let's say you try to build large scale solutions with a lot of data, transactional data, and it's going to hit not now, 6 months, 12 months, everything looks great, but you go in 24 months, 48 months, 60 months, in 5 years' time, it will have its own challenges, and you will be doing the remediation to fix those. It would cost more, but most of the times people is like, okay, can you just build this now and get it going? We'll figure it out how it's gonna do in 5 years' time. That's one thing I think needs like education from everywhere. Like people needs to promote what's the longer term impact. It need not to be like 10 years, maybe even 3 years, and promote the value versus the cost that is being going to spend. And also I believe I can share my experience with Dataverse. When I started from SharePoint to Dataverse, I had a lot of challenge. And I see that when I answer in the forums these days, a lot of people, it's not easy to understand Dataverse security. I know Dataverse provides heaps of features in terms of the security, but I always recommend the PowerCat video that was done by Demos, with like 30-minute video every now and then people go and watch. I think we
Mm-hmm.
need to have more of that content, and also how it could be simplified to teach people. I think once people understand the power of the Dataverse and what it can do for enterprise level applications, I think a lot of people will also use that.
Part of your role, my understanding is you're involved in empowering and equipping the maker community that come along. And tell me, what does that look like for you in an enterprise organization? How do you corral those people that are kind of going to opt in and get involved? And then how do you take them on a journey of taking them from wherever they are in their experience level to a point where they can become, really pretty good at what they're doing and what they're building solution wise?
Sure, Mark. I think in Power Platform, we are lucky. I think Manuel and team did a wonderful job creating starter kit that can actually gives us insights: who is doing what, where they're actually doing, what they're actually doing, right? So we already got those insights. Now every person is busy with what they wanted to achieve. It's one thing that we need to understand. But from Power Platform, we always wanted to like how we could do better in the Power Platform. But from the people point of view, they don't come to office and get excited like I need to build a solution. But mostly, I think they just come and do their day-to-day work. They want to go doing that pretty easily. Now, as a Power Platform team, you need to identify those challenges and basically help them to get through those challenges. That's where you build the trust. If you go and ask them, okay, you're the top 10 guys building a lot of solutions, come and join
Mm-hmm.
this committee and we wanted to do the forums. I don't think that works because everyone is busy. I think the starting point would be identifying the challenges those people got and provide them the help, because that's how it happened in many times where people used to come to us and we don't tell them like, okay, let's start a committee or community. We will
Mm-hmm.
try to help them. One of them is a lot of people doesn't have proper guidelines. There is a lot of content outside.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft done it. A lot of MVPs put together the guidelines, but a lot of those guidelines may not be 100% fit for the people who are doing the solutions,
Mm-hmm.
because every organization have their own policies, controls, systems. Now, as a Power Platform team, we need to give them what exactly they need. So
Mm-hmm.
what we did is we went ahead and created the guidelines that are needed for them to take to the next level or solve
Mm-hmm.
those challenges. And they said whenever they wanted to request an enrollment, it's taking time. So then what we did, we went ahead and automated that process. Now, uh, earlier it used to take over a week or a few days time, but now it just happens in less than an hour or so. Uh, so I think the first step would be identify those problems, ask
Mm-hmm.
them what are the challenges, and then solve those challenges, and then tell them we wanted to do this on a monthly basis or whatever the cadence, and then bring them together. Start small, and again listen to their challenges. It's not what a lot of times what happens is, okay, we are Power Platform team, we are doing a lot of good things, you need to
Mm-hmm.
follow. No,
Yes.
it should be other way around. What are your challenges? What are you working on? Uh, is it something you built recently? Can you showcase to other people? Maybe they might be interested in. And a lot of people wanted to have that recognition and
Mm.
show the work they have done. So if we can do that, I think that adds a lot more value. And you don't have to grow that so rapidly, because again, go back to that 1%, 2%, and 5% people
Mm-hmm.
where you need to help. That's where a lot of quality solutions are being built. Um, and a lot of small apps may not yield a lot of value. Some of them eventually will also die. Uh, so that's how I think streamlining those processes, listening
Mm-hmm.
to their challenges, and making their day-to-day job easier is going to drive the growth, I believe.
When you think of an organization like the size that you work for, where do you see the Power Platform team? Where do they sit? Do they sit As in, and I'm really asking your opinion here, do you think it should be squarely the ownership of IT because it's a bit of, infrastructure technology that enables this? Or should it sit outside IT? It should, as in, obviously will always need a connection into IT because they govern things like licenses, security protocols, DLP, etc. There's a whole range of things that IT can be provided. But my observation is this: IT don't want to support a ton of little apps. They don't have it. It's not in their service desk. They don't want to, when a maker goes, oh, how do I do this? IT don't want to support that, right? It's not even in production yet. We're not never necessarily running a DevOps type, scenario. So you don't have that support. In your mind, in a large enterprise, where should it sit? Where should this part sit inside the organization?
It's an interesting question. I think it can be part of IT because that's where I think you work pretty closely with the other teams like security and software asset management team. So you will be part of the IT team, but that's where you get more opportunities to interact and understand the other team's challenges also, right? They won't simply come and say, don't use this. If you could have a process in place and tell them, for example, and when you look at the strategies and enabling custom connectors, if you make it easy for other teams, they are there to help you, right? That's one part of it from the Power Platform team. It sits in between other teams and the people in the business. Now, the other question you asked, like how I'm going to support, or the IT is going to support the little app.
Yes.
It's always the support is going to be the challenging, right? That's where, as a Power Platform team, you need to always look at what are the solutions that are actually being used by a lot of people. Though it's a little app, and is it being used by a lot of people in the business or a lot of people in the department, or is it the business impact is going to be high? Is the data that is being used highly confidential? And those are the different factors you need to look at, and you need to ask the business. But again, the support is going to cost at the end of the day, right? So there is a balance between the cost and also the value that is going to generate the app. If the app is going to be used by only that person or less than few people, if it is not like a lot of impact to the business, maybe support is not needed. But then if people comes to us and say this is being used by 1,000 people on day in day out, we are getting a lot of requests for enhancements, that is something I think the Power Platform team need to put in a process and then help them support those apps. And again, it varies from our organization to organization what kind of support you want to provide. You will just give enhancements to also to the other team to do it, or you still make that citizen dev responsible for this one. That's where I think I haven't thought through entirely, but it's always a challenge. I still feel it's the value versus the cost that needed to support those apps. But from the Power Platform team, we need to keep an eye on what are the most used apps. That's where in the previous discussion I was mentioning about the automation, you need to give them or ask the information of those data confidentiality, business impact, and all the other information at the beginning of the journey when they develop the solutions. And then you do proactive monitoring or maybe even reactive. Like you see that one of the app being used by so many people, then you go and talk to that person as well, not the other way. One way, like citizen devs or people in the business will talk to you, but Power Platform team can go and talk to them as well. Like, okay, this app is becoming critical. Can we help?
Yeah. Now you brought up an interesting thing there, which is the Power Platform team going out to the business and having a chat. And how do you do that proactively? What have you found works well to make sure that really two things happen? One, the business stakeholders are aware of the art of the possible. What are they frustrated with every day that you could potentially help with? And in a way, I'm talking because I know a little bit about the industry that you're operating in. It's out on that mine site where there's a Portacom unit and there's people grabbing lab samples, and it's been tracked on whiteboards or, documented in an Excel spreadsheet, miles maybe from the closest city or town or anything like that. In those scenarios where you can present an idea that potentially would make their life so much easier, like, a mobile device that allows for capturing the data directly from the lab samples in the field, how they're stored, the longevity of the storage of those samples, on mine sites, lab samples aren't small samples. They are massive, drum loads of sample material and things like this. How do you have that conversation in the Power Platform team out to the business, make them aware of the art of the possible and what you could possibly create in such a frequent way that the business is starting to think, what? Perhaps the Power Platform team can solve this for me. Perhaps there's a way that, I don't have to grab yet another Excel spreadsheet, which I'm not sure if I'm on the latest version, and who updated this new macro in here, and what does it do that I don't know that it did before, and I don't understand. Like, how does your team maintain that constant comm with the business to keep the constant, if you like, backlog full of projects that really empower an organization to be able to do the jobs that they do each day better?
I think one of the opportunity that we got is we have a lot of other people deliver solutions or do kind of influencing the people to use IT. So we go and show them like simple examples on how Power Platform can use, because people see the examples and then and think like, can this be used within our department? So we have to show them a lot more real world examples on how other people are actually doing it. And also, I think if we got scenarios where some of the real world applications where, and again, they might have a lot of use cases, right? What are the things that they would be doing that is taking more time for them? And again, we might need to start small. One of the things that we do internally is having a SharePoint site that promotes Power Platform. So we started something like Perfect Math Series. And what it basically does is how Power Platform can integrate with Office 365 services. Like there would be scenarios where they might be getting a lot of emails now, how I could streamline it. So now if they see an example where how Power Platform can talk to Outlook, same with Power Platform, how it can integrate with Microsoft Teams. So I think instead of going with the big use cases and tell them like Power Platform can deliver, I think initially the trust needs to be developed and show them the simple automations and how it could improve the task that they are doing, and then promote the bigger picture, like how it could do the or solve rather the bigger problems that they got in the business. Because a lot of times if you start with the bigger ones, there might be a risk as well, right? So if Power Platform is not the right tool for everything, then you might be like losing the trust, if that is the right word. But then again, it takes back them to where they are. So I think helping them, show them simple solutions, and then see how they can solve those problems, and then take it to the next level. And then some challenges, like they won't be able to do it. However, you educate. That's where I think your beginning question about using pro developers, so and introduce them to solve the problems is going to be an important one.
Devendra, it's been fantastic having you on the show. Our time is up. We're over time, and I just so enjoy talking to you and learning from you. Where can people, see what you're up to? What's your handle in those forums about, with what you're doing? What are you doing, around community engagement these days, out in not in the Rio community, but actually out broader in the global community for the Power Platform and Dynamics 365.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity, Mark. It's lovely having this conversation. People can find me on LinkedIn with my name. I am going to blog pretty soon. I have up and running, but it's not started yet. But mostly I'm answering questions on administration governance forum on Power Apps. That's one area I wanted to contribute and see if I can make a small impact. And also, I'm also learning from some of the questions that people are asking. One of the things that you touched on, managed environments previously, how they could better be useful, what are the risks. So I'm learning as well as while I'm contributing. So yeah, it's great going so far.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If there's a guest you'd like to see on the show, please message me on LinkedIn. If you want to be a supporter of the show, please check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Stay safe out there and shoot for the stars. Before you go, a quick reminder that the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge kicks off on the 1st of April. Every cohort, I hear people say that surely this group has been the best one ever. The true magic of the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge is the connections formed between a group of people who are committed to learning with and from each other. Will you be part of the best cohort yet? Use the code podcast for 10% off at checkout. Visit ako.nz365guy.com to see a detailed curriculum and hear what past participants have to say about the challenge. I can't wait to help you discover the unique value you bring to the community and just how far you can take your career.